We were so busy with Spring Session M. There were too many hits off that album. So many we had to just set that down and move on. In hindsight, we should have kept going with that record. We should have made a video for Walking in LA. We should have made a video for a noticeable one and one for Windows. The label and the record industry didn't work that way back then. They wanted what was next. But Spring Session M had what they call legs. Today, you don't find an album with more than one or two hit songs. Not to brag, but our debut album was all hit songs. We wanted Quincy Jones to produce our second album. I called Quincy's office, and once we were told how much he would charge, we said goodbye to that idea. Luckily, we got his engineer, Bruce Sweden. Bruce was Quincy's right-hand man on Michael Jackson's Thriller. He was an incredible guy. He reminded me of the star of the kids' TV show, Captain Kangaroo. The record came relatively easy. We made it in Quincy Jones's studio in Hollywood, the same place Michael had made his albums. It was a demanding record to make. Every day I would drink the same tea Michael liked. It was a concoction made of herbs and licorice roots with slippery bark and eucalyptus leaves. With that album, we really started getting artsy. That was the reason we picked Helmut Newton to shoot the cover. I wanted to make sure, and so did Terry, that we had a beautiful cover. We all decided to pick him. Helmut was one of the most incredible photographers. I had to seek him out myself all the way to Monte Carlo. His wife, June, who was also a photographer, answered the phone, and I had to convince her that he should be the photographer for this new rock band in Los Angeles. Her first response was, "He doesn't do rock bands." Helmut was known for photos of the most beautiful women. I started to talk quickly about who we were, how many records we sold, and how we came from Frank Zappa's band. I hard sold her. At the end of my pitch, she said, "Okay, I'm going to take this to Helmut." She instructed me to call her back the next day. I did and arranged everything. We settled on a price. The only problem was I then had to call Capitol. I called and told them, "Look, I got Helmut Newton to shoot the cover. It's going to be perfect, but this is going to cost us $4,000. Capitol was like, "What? $4,000? I said, "Don't worry, it's worldwide rights." Whatever that meant. I told them, "This will be the most beautiful album cover ever made. We will win awards." I was blowing up my own self like a balloon. When we shot with Helmut, he called me his torch singer. He made me feel like a classic movie star. I'm frozen in time in his photography. One of the fringe benefits of being in Quincy Jones's orbit was we got to be part of the lives of some of the other artists. Quincy was working with including Frank Sinatra and the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson. Quincy was producing L.A., I Lady for Frank Sinatra, a.k.a. the chairman of the board, the ultimate Italian crooner. Quincy called me one day and said they were making a video for the title track and told me he wanted to put 80 people in the video. They put me, Terry, and Warren in the video. I was carrying a surfboard. I was in 6-inch heels and all leather at the beach. We rode bicycles down Venice Beach. We don't sing on the song, but we are all through the video. You can watch it today on YouTube. After our second album, Rhyme and Reason, came out, I kept in touch with Bruce, the producer. I called the studio one day to check in, and Michael Jackson answered the phone. Michael said to me, "Dale, I have your record right here. I'm holding it in my hands. You are the most beautiful person ever." The most beautiful. His voice was so distinctive. He went on and on about how beautiful I was. I said, "Okay, I love you too." Then Michael Jackson said, "I've got to have the earring you're wearing on the cover." I said, "Oh, no problem. I have them right here. I have 2 of them. I'll give you one. he said in the most excited childlike voice. You would? You really would? Sure, I'll have it sent right over, I told him. I know where you are. You are in the studio. I hung up the phone and told my assistant Dougie, I need you to take this earring over to Quincy's studio and give it to Michael Jackson. He stared at me with his mouth open. Michael Jackson? I told him, yeah, I know it is crazy, but can you do it? Yeah, I'll do it. He ran out the door. People have asked me why I didn't just bring the earring to Michael myself. But I was tied up in turmoil at the time, arguing on the phone with Terry, with Warren, with my shrink. All I wanted to do was get off the phone and get out of my apartment to go shopping at Bergdorf Goodman. Dougie left, and not 20 minutes later, Michael Jackson called me back. I didn't want to take the call. I just wanted to go shopping. But it was Michael Jackson, so I had to take it. He said, I got the earring. It's the most beautiful earring in the world. You are the most incredible girl to give me this. I'm going to hold it all day. It was an award-winning speech that went on for almost 30 minutes. All I kept saying was, you're welcome. I couldn't get a word in edgewise. He was an eccentric fellow. I never met him in person, but always knew he had one of my earrings. Missing Persons was in a bit of turmoil, but we pressed on. We were on tour in a bus Warren dubbed the Black Leather Lung. On the outside, it was covered in black. On the Canadian leg of that tour, the heater in the bus broke down. No heat. It was a blizzard outside and we were freezing inside. I had just happened to have seen my mother and I got a fur coat from her because she was working as a furrier at Raymond's, then Jordan Marsh and Macy's. She bought furs from all over the world. It is not PC now, but I had one of the finest furs available from her. When the heat in the bus went out, me, Terry, and Warren huddled under the fur coat for warmth. It was so cold, but we laughed hysterically. It was one of the greatest times I ever spent with them, freezing and laughing in the middle of Canada, not knowing what would become of us. We could float off on a cloud, just the three of us, not recognizing or caring about the world around us. Warren and I went to the top of the CN Tower in Toronto, Canada. Terry did not want to go, so we left him at the hotel. Warren and I went up the top and looked down at the city below. We looked at each other, and it was a heavy moment between Warren and me. We knew we loved each other so deeply, but couldn't act on it. We were both loyal to Terry in our hearts and our heads. We did not give in to our feelings, at least not yet. We were both bonded to Terry. We went to New York to make a couple more videos. We made the video for Give. Then we met Peter Max, the great pop artist, and he did the video for what turned out to be the first single, Surrender Your Heart. He painted on a glass box called a paint box and shot the video through that. The video was so unique. I looked like a face on a pyramid. Peter made that video without the band. Go back and watch it on YouTube. There is some footage of me, but no live performance. It was the first collaboration like that. It was gorgeous and very artsy. Peter Max and I became friends and remained so for years. Anytime he had an art opening, I was there to support him. I recall one event, and it was me, Cheech Marin, from the comedy team Cheech and Chong, plus Peter and drug guru Timothy Leary. Leary and I spoke about tripping on acid. He was a big supporter of that. I had dabbled with Orange Sunshine as a teenager. Otto Stiefel had taken over managing me and Missing Persons. He was trying to keep things going, trying to save us. He saw we still had potential. I fell in love with him. I was always telling him I wanted to be a movie star. He got me an audition with Billy Wilder. Billy Wilder was a true Hollywood legend. He was a screenwriter and director of some of the finest films this world has ever seen, true classics ranging from The Apartment to Some Like It Hot with Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, and Marilyn Monroe, to The 7-Year Itch, also with Marilyn Monroe, and one of my favorite of all time, Sunset Velvet. In a town full of people pretending to be legends, Billy Wilder was the real deal. He was the king of films starring the beauties in black and white. He made the kind of films I dreamed of being in as a kid. The audition was to be with Michael Keaton, who was pretty hot stuff at the time, with a few hit films under his belt. He was not yet Batman, though. That would come later. I was thrilled to be offered a shot at making another movie and to work with Billy Wilder and Michael Keaton. After Lunch Wagon, I thought my dreams of movie stardom were dead. Arnold thought otherwise. I was not told the name of the film, but in it they needed someone to play a sultry singer who could really sing. In the movie, she would roll around on a piano in a red dress singing old-time tunes like Makin' Whoopee. The day of the audition came and they told me to pay attention. Be polite and dress for the part. The first two bits of advice were a no-brainer. But dress for the part. What, in a red dress and high heels? I didn't do that. I dressed like me in my head-to-toe leather gear. It was rock star uniform. It was what I thought I looked the best in because it was skin tight and helped all my little curves. It showed off my potential. My hair was bleach blonde. I had redone it to remove the pinks and greens and blues that normally sat there. I went to the audition and was in the waiting room with all these beauties. Each was more beautiful than the next, with hair was so shiny it was too bright to even look at. They were all dressed in red dresses with red pumps. I stuck out like a sore thumb. I started to feel like I was in the wrong place. But I stayed. I didn't panic or rage. I was very calm. They called my number and I started to walk into the audition room. I could feel the stares from every other girl in the room. I didn't look anything like them. I went in and there was a tiny table. Behind that sat Michael Keaton and the legendary Billy Wilder. The room was cramped and uncomfortable. As the daughter of a builder, I could tell the room was constructed all wrong, oddly shaped with no windows and stuffy. I sat in this tiny hard stool against the wall. The two of them just stared at me. No conversation, just a quick, "Hi," I thought. These two are stiff. I introduced myself and said, "How are you today, Mr. Wilder? I am such a big fan of yours. I am honored to be in your presence today." I then turned to Keaton and asked him how he was. He was very awkward to me and not very comforting at all. He was cold. Billy Wilder said, "Okay, let's try this. The scene is you two just had an argument, but now you're back together. Michael's character will say, 'It's all right, we'll make this work.' Then the two of you will kiss." That's the scene. The whole audition was to see who kissed Michael Keaton the best, to determine whose mouth he liked and whose he didn't. There were no lines for me to do, no acting. I couldn't believe it. I started to rage. I was about to blow out of there and push them both as I left. But I didn't want to upset Arnold, who had set up the audition not knowing what would happen. Michael Keaton made his way around the table and was standing at my side. The room got even smaller. I am claustrophobic. I was so offended mentally. My visions of Hollywood were once again shattered. I was brokenhearted by the two of them and their actions that day. Billy Wilder should have opened his heart and given me respect. He should have known better. They were looking for one thing, a set of lips that locked really tight with Michael Keaton. Well, they didn't want mine. I kissed Keaton as quickly as I could, and then I left immediately after. There was no second take. I plowed out the door. I left the idea of Hollywood and the way it was implanted in my mind as a child far behind. Billy Wilder broke my heart that day. The film came out years later in 1989, and it was called The Fabulous Baker Boys. Michael Keaton was no longer part of the project. He was replaced by Jeff Bridges and his brother Beau Bridges. The part of the sexy singer in the red dress went to the ultra-beautiful Michelle Pfeiffer. Although she wasn't a singer, she did an amazing job in that film. Billy Wilder didn't end up being part of the film either. As with many projects in Hollywood, everything shifted in the time between when I was forced to kiss Michael Keaton and the time the film made its debut. I loved Billy Wilder before that, but not since. However, even the terrible experience of that audition could not stop me from loving and rewatching his work today. The original 1954 version of Sabrina is the epitome of what filmmaking should be. Audrey Hepburn in that is magical. Her work takes my breath away again and again. Acting was in the detail of people's faces then, in their eyes, in the moment. Unlike today, where everything is special effects, electronic sci-fi, with no emotion, except fear. Missing Persons toured to support the album and kept touring. We loved being on the bus and doing shows. The live performance was really what it was about for Missing Persons. We were on TV a lot. We spent time in New York, out and about, clubbing, eating in the nicest restaurants. It was all a party. For New Year's Eve 1986 into 1987, Warren and I rented the penthouse at the Helmsley Hotel and had a big to-do. It was a blowout party to end a massive year of success. Peter Max was there with his girlfriend. Terry wasn't around. He stayed back in L.A. I'm not sure why, but much like my grandmother, I didn't ask. I turned a blind eye to him, and he to me. Everyone at the party had a great time. We all drank and danced and had fun, but that was the problem night. As the party wound down, Warren and I were left on our own. Drunk, high, out of control, I was all three. That night, Warren and I had sex. That moment would disturb everyone and everything we had built. It crumbled our once sturdy foundation to a pile of rubble. My actions that night would eventually destroy Missing Persons. I guess I should have seen it coming, but I never expected it. It was a disturbance that I regret to this day. Warren and I didn't speak of it the next morning. I went back to Los Angeles a few days later and the band had a meeting. They told me I needed rehab. I knew I did. I was so out of control that I checked myself into Cedars-Sinai Hospital to detox. I needed to get off drugs. I needed cocaine rehab. I stayed there 2 weeks. It was torture. I was starving. They wouldn't let me eat pasta while in rehab, just broths and juices and Jell-O. I'm Italian. I needed pasta. I needed to go home. After the 2 weeks, I broke out. I thought I had to get back to work and make our third record. I had to get back to Terry. That would fix everything. If I could just get back to Terry, he would tell me what to do.